sports writer and they had a film critic and they asked me would I want to be a sports columnist. If they had asked me to be a film critic, I would have done that and would have been just as happy. Maybe not. I can't say I would have been just as happy. That's flippant. I would have been a film critic, but I've been very happy as a sports writer, so I don't know what it would have been like the other way. But what I'm saying, Luke, it was strictly circumstantial. I knew I wanted to write, and I knew I wanted to write in a popular daily medium. That was clear to me. But whether it was one thing, it wasn't, I'm so in love with sports, I have to do this. That was certainly not it at all. I did feel that I had certain advantages writing about sports in that the what's at stake is pretty basic and simple, so there would be no concepts I couldn't understand. You know, sometimes there's a rule in a game that I don't get, like some arcane rule in a National Football League game where they have to explain it. But, I mean, I understood, that a touchdown was 6 points and the point after was 1 point. It was a world that I pretty much understood, so I could concentrate on my writing, okay? And I also knew that I thought I had some talent as a writer, and I had read thousands of really good books, and that probably I could bring some sort of wisdom and style to writing about sports that maybe others could not.
Where have you found meaning in writing on sports?
Okay. I'm going to, that's a very good question, but here's my answer. I find meaning in the act, and I am not in any way trying to avoid your question. It's a terrific question, but it's very clear to me that what is meaningful to me most of all in writing is doing writing. It's more meaningful than anything. For example, if I write a column that influences people, or gets people talking, or gets people angry, or praising me, that's really nice, but those are secondary benefits. The benefit is, I'm going to say a word that's going to sound weird, is the art of doing it, even though I'm sure people would not think that sports writing is an art, and I wouldn't push it. But for me, it feels like it, and so the meaning for me is the 4 times a week I get to sit down and plan my first sentence and see where it's going to flow and hear the alliteration in my mind and work my way toward an ending which I hope is a zinger. And when I look at the whole thing and you have a feeling of that you've done this and it's been exhilarating and then now you have an artifact, that's what it means for me.
Do you actually enjoy writing?
I love it. I look forward to it. I love writing. I'm in love with it. And I love to talk about it, and I love to teach it. I've been teaching it at the University of San Francisco for 20 years, and I teach a seminar, a workshop in nonfiction prose. It's not journalism. It's creative writers who write nonfiction. I love to talk about it, tone, voice, whatever you want to say. And yes, I love writing, and I'm in love with the act of it, and it's never wavered.
Let me just think about what you said before I ask my next question. Have you ever felt like you were slumming it?
Yes, I have. That's a very good question. Meaning by being a sports writer?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I have. In general, I don't. In general, I feel it's a very worthwhile thing to do. It's as worthwhile as most other things to do. Sometimes the things I write about, although I say to me the act of writing is the most important, but sometimes if you're writing about somebody pulled his hamstring, or you're talking to someone who doesn't give a shit about you and is answering in these rote, bored answers, I feel I'm slumming it. I feel that it was a wasted article or a wasted day. I do, in that regard, sometimes feel it. And I feel it's my job, if I'm good that day, that week, to make it so that I don't feel like I'm slumming it, to do something special. And that would mean in my style.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about your fellow sports writers as far as their commitment to writing?
Okay. That's another good question. For the most part, sports writers are journalists, which means they come to the profession from a completely different route from me. I've never taken a journalism course, and I've never taken a writing course. It's all self-taught. So what most sports reporters think about is getting facts, getting a scoop, delivering the news, and delivering stuff that's not apparent, like having sources, things like that, to give what's going on behind the scenes. So their project is completely different from mine. My project is not like a sports writer. It's like a sports columnist. So a sports columnist is a small category of sports writers. Most sports writers would not, I don't think, be concerned with style, with writing. They'd be concerned with reporting, which is a wonderful thing to do, and I'm not particularly good at it. So I'm only comparing myself to the smaller population of sports columnists, which is generally looked at as the best job. To me, the best sports columnists are people who, I guess, could deliver two things, and it's usually one or the other. One is someone who has a unique writing style / view on things, and I can give you examples of those. And the other would be someone who is so well connected, he or she is always delivering news like a reporter, but can do it with his or her own voice and with opinion attached to it. I can do that. I don't think I'm particularly that kind. I'm trying to think of sports columnists who can do that. Tim Kawakami down in San Jose can do that. The second kind, Glenn Dickey, who used to write with me at the Chronicle, can do that. And I really like those kinds of sports columns. Other kinds of sports writers are people who are more stylish, like a friend of mine at the Chronicle, Scott Osler, is a humorist, and he's really funny. Like when he wrote a little piece about Singletary when he took his pants down, and he wrote, were his pants half down or half up? It was a clever concept, putting that idea together with pants, like is the glass half full or half empty?
Yes. Yes.
And so I tend to be attracted to those kinds of columnists because they do more of what I do, although because they do it, I'd also be very critical of them.
Who are the stylists in your profession that you identify with, and who are the stylists in your profession? Well,
Scott is someone I admire. When I was growing up in New York, there was a guy named Jimmy Cannon who was very famous and very forceful. I guess the best of my generation on the East Coast was Red Smith. I don't know if you ever read him, but he was like a short story writer in sports columns. He wrote in Philadelphia and ended writing in the New York Times. And the one out here was Jim Murray, who again had an absolutely unique voice, and a lot of people on the West Coast copied him to their detriment because no one can do it like he did it. I guess those are the ones. But what I would like to say more, Luke, is if you're asking for models in my writing, they would never have come from newspaper people. Never. Those were people I appreciated, but as I say, from the time I went to college, I've been a voracious reader, and I would have to say that, Joseph Conrad, Graham Greene, Jane Austen, George Eliot are just better writers than me and the sports writers that I hang around with, and I have spent a lot of time reading them, and because of how their style, Dickens, and because of how unique and individual and brilliant they are. That's who I read.
Is there one writer who's had the most influence on your writing style?
Let's see. Well, the one who would come two that would come to my mind. One would be Bernard Malamud. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
He was a Brooklyn Jew, and he wrote one great novel and 4 or 5 great short stories and many fabulous short stories. And his way of his sound is such a Brooklyn Jewish sound. And Philip Roth would be the same kind of thing. So it's funny, you come back to these questions about how has Judaism affected me. Well, certainly those two voices are in my head a lot when I write. I would say those two. I love Graham Greene